What's up guys, it's Eden. Welcome back to Eden Well. This is a lifestyle, faith, fitness, mom channel. So if all those things perk your interest, go ahead and like and subscribe and ring that bell for notifications for future videos. But today's video is all things baby reflux, giving you the 411 on what to do or things that you can try when your baby seems to be spitting up, or in our case, throwing up a lot. Disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a pediatrician. This is just mom advice, someone that has a baby that has had really bad reflux, my experience, things that we've tried, things that were successful, or things that just didn't work for us but work for a lot of people. We've had a very intense time with my son Leon's reflux, and so I just want to take you through all the things that we tried, and maybe those things could help you as well if your baby struggles with this. Now, my son is breastfed, so most of these things apply to breastfed babies. Formula is a whole other area that I don't have experience with. So if your baby has reflux and you're doing formula, most of this might not apply, but there still could be some tips you could take from it. My son is breastfed. We've been breastfeeding he's 6.5 months now, so we've been pretty successful with breastfeeding, but it has been a really hard journey in terms of his reflux. So the first thing that you can approach when it comes to reflux is mouth ties. My son had an upper lip tie and a pretty strong tongue tie. Now, if you don't know what mouth ties are, they're just those pieces of skin that connect your lips to your gum or your tongue to the bottom of your mouth. Some babies are born with much greater, more significant mouth ties, and this can restrict the latch. And so they always say a good latch is king when it comes to having a great breastfeeding journey. So in hospitals, they kind of check for them, but there are places like tongue tie centers or even dentist offices that can check your baby's mouth ties, and lactation consultants can do that as well. So for us, we had our lactation consultant look at him. She told us, yep, he has a pretty significant tongue and an upper lip tie. And so what we did is we went to a tongue tie center where they specialize in this kind of thing. The old school way is actually snipping the tongue tie and mouth ties. However, there's a new way that is a lot less invasive. It's more of a laser than, well, it is a laser and not like snipping. It seriously took like 90 seconds. They took him from us, they did the procedure, they brought him back. It was literally under 2 minutes. They numbed the area, they just laser it real quick. Now, it did take us about 2 weeks to see improvement with his latch. It takes some pretty intense rehabilitation to keep the sores from healing. The mouth ties can reheal, and so you have to keep stretching those areas, which is really hard on the baby and for mom and dad, but it's really necessary to keep the sores open so that they heal without closing. His upper lip did close a little bit, but he has been fine since, and so it hasn't really been an issue. So this did greatly improve his latch, which was a huge bonus, but it did not fix the issue. He still was throwing up a lot. The next thing that you kind of have to keep addressing when you're breastfeeding is obviously just the latch, and so making sure that that latch is wide, that both the lips are curled out, that the tongue is pulling the nipple in and not munching, and that kind of leads to the next thing. So if you've addressed the latch and the latch looks okay, for us, when it came to the mouth ties, when we revised his tongue got weak. And so when a baby is in the womb, they learn how to suck at like 15-16 weeks and on. And so the thing that you have to do is really rehabilitate the strength of the tongue after a mouth tie revision. So we had to go to feeding therapy. So we did the mouth ties, we addressed the latch, and when that still wasn't working, we did feeding therapy. And feeding therapy is basically just kind of what it sounds like. You kind of do oral work and body work with the baby. So Leon had a lot of air swallowing going on, and the bubbles can push up a lot of the milk. And so he was struggling with bubbles and sucking air and clicking at the boob. And so even though his latch was okay, his tongue was super weak, so he was kind of munching. And so we had to do some oral work, like oral exercises to strengthen his tongue, and that really improved his latch. His tongue got really strong and he was able to pull the milk instead of munching, and that helped me a lot, obviously. And then he was able to draw milk quicker, faster, more efficiently, and that really helped his latch a ton. However, that did not help. And so something else that I struggled with that you might as well, that you could probably think about, is I struggled with an oversupply. I was not prepared to have an oversupply. A lot of women struggle with undersupply, and so for me, it was a shock that I had so much milk, and my milk really didn't level out until about 4 months. But you could address the fact that you might have an oversupply. An oversupply can affect a reflux baby because they're drinking too much too fast. I also had a fast letdown. So my poor baby was getting so much, and as a new mom, I just didn't know how much a baby was supposed to eat, how long they were supposed to nurse, like is he getting enough, like is he throwing up just because he has reflux, or is he getting too much? It was really hard to know at first. And so what you have to kind of address is like, okay, how full do I feel compared to, like, how much is the baby emptying me out at the end of a feed? Kind of helps you think about the latch as well. But if you have an oversupply, something that I did was only feed him on one side per feed. That eliminated 2 huge letdowns, but that also helped me empty out on one side. And then my supply lessened because I wasn't feeding him on both sides. And so that really helped around that 3-month mark, when he was still spitting up a lot. He was able to be fully fed and throw up a little bit less because he was throwing up a lot during feeds, and that was signifying, okay, he's getting too much right away. Besides feeding your baby only on one side, I don't necessarily know how to lessen your supply, so that's kind of something that I tried and you could try as well. So if you've addressed all of those and your baby is still spitting up, the biggest thing that you kind of have to address is food allergies and food sensitivities. Unfortunately, this is one of the most annoying things that you have to do for baby reflux. So this is where our journey gets really crazy in terms of just the amount of work it took to figure it out. But the biggest allergens for reflux are dairy, egg, soy, tree nuts, wheat, sometimes fish, but dairy, egg, and soy and wheat are probably the main ones that you want to address. At first, when he was about 2 months old, I got food allergy tested. Now, I had bad gut health at the time that I hadn't addressed, and so it was technically affecting him. I had yeast overgrowth that was affecting my milk that gave him yeast overgrowth, and that's kind of a whole other thing that I feel like is pretty rare, so I'm not gonna go into that too much. However, I had dairy and egg and some wheat sensitivities at the time, and so I had to do an elimination diet. So an elimination diet, I feel like a lot of people know this, but if you don't know what an elimination diet is, it basically is taking out a giant list of foods out of your diet and then adding them in every few days to a week or so, like basically 1 food a week, and see how you or your baby react to those foods. So I took out dairy and egg initially. It seemed like he kind of got better, but it wasn't resolved. At his 4-month mark, I think that's when I took out wheat, legumes, and tree nuts. Then I added legumes back in, then I added wheat back in, and he was the same. And then we found out if I ate like a Lara bar that had nuts in it, he threw up a lot. And so fast forward, he got allergy tested. Cashews came back on his list. So we ended up finding out he has a cashew sensitivity or cashew allergy. Figuring out your baby's sensitivities can really help address the reflux. It's been kind of a confusing journey, but addressing the elimination diet and taking out those foods can really, it's basically the scientific method of figuring out, does your baby react to certain foods through your milk. Sometimes it can take a few days, weeks, even a month or two. Unfortunately, sometimes dairy can stick in your body. It seems like Leon reacted strongly and quickly if I added or took foods out. My doctor said that he would react quickly. The internet will tell you that milk takes 2 months to leave your body. I feel like doctors and the internet say different things, but for us, he reacted pretty immediately. So it's pretty recent that we did figure out that he had a cashew allergy. So obviously we're gonna avoid cashews. I'm not sure about tree nuts in general. I've been avoiding them thus far because if I ate like a Lara bar, it seems like he does spit up a lot more, and the smell is different too. So I think I'll be avoiding tree nuts and peanuts for maybe another month or two. We'll see. but food allergies are a huge one for reflux. So you can search elimination diets and the main food groups or main foods that you can take out of your diet to help see if that alleviates any of your baby's reflux. Next, I want to mention just some honorable mentions. There were a few other things that I had heard of or that doctors mentioned and the other things we did, but even though we had a home birth, Leon was born with some complications. We ended up having to stay at the hospital for about 5 days. And in the NICU, he was tube fed for about a day and a half. And I've just heard that a lot of NICU babies, either in the hospital or when they leave, have reflux. It seems like a huge percentage of them do. My initial theory was they stretched his stomach and his esophagus with the tube feeding, because a few times I saw them tube feeding him, he would gag a lot. And so I felt like they were overfeeding him. It was just an initial, are they doing that wrong? Is that right? You know, kind of questioning. Your mom gut wants to just protect your baby, and so that was kind of one theory that I thought of. Again, I don't know if that's true or scientific, I have no idea, but just combining the fact that they made him gag and babies leave with reflux, I'm like, maybe something's there, but who knows. It definitely would not have affected him all the way to 6 months, so I highly doubt that that was it. Another thing they had us do was go get an abdominal ultrasound to see if he had a polyp in his stomach. I'm assuming because any kind of mass in the stomach would probably push milk up, but he thankfully, you know, didn't have a polyp in his stomach, but I'm assuming that's something that they would just go in and take out and remove, and for some babies that's the answer. Something else I heard, more holistic, actually it's a holistic doctor from our pediatrician's office, it's not our pediatrician, but something they mentioned on the internet, on their Instagram, was if you have a baby that is a mouth breather when they sleep, that can affect the gut microbiome in their stomach, which can make them have reflux, and that seems a little far-fetched. I just wanted to mention it because it's something I've heard, and he is a mouth breather, but I don't know. I feel like that's a little, for how much Leon throws up, I feel like that's a pretty far-fetched reasoning, so I didn't put too much weight into that one. Lastly, at the end of the day, if your baby is still throwing up like mine did and still spitting up a lot like mine still does, he's getting better. But if you've tried all the things that I've mentioned and your baby still spits up, you might just have a baby that spits up. That's kind of what I've concluded. So, you know, us figuring out the cashew allergy and me taking out foods and then adding them back in and all this stuff, we've added foods back in and he's been pretty good. It seems like at about 5.5-ish months, and even like he just turned 6 months, it seems like he just drastically got better. And it's like, okay, did he get better because I eliminated foods and healed his gut and healed my gut and healed my milk? Or did he just turn 6 months and he just, you know, was a baby that was slow developing internally? Like, that's kind of the confusing part about reflux, is you can try all the things, and then it's like as soon as they get to the 6 to 9 month mark, it's like, it's usually when they stop spitting up. Reflux is kind of just a mystery sometimes. Some moms take out dairy and their baby magically stops puking, and man, do I wish that was our story, but it wasn't. I have done so much laundry, so many burp cloths, it's insane. But I just wanted to make a video kind of describing our journey, things that we've tried, and if your baby has reflux, girl, I'm praying for you, because it just is. It is. It seems like it wouldn't be a big deal, but when your baby's losing so much milk and it affects their weight, and it can be, and especially when it affects your food, when it affects how you eat. Like when you're breastfeeding, you just want to eat food. You don't want to think about what you're putting in your mouth. You just want to eat and be satisfied. And when you have to stand in the kitchen and think, okay, wait, I can't have this, I can't have this, I can't have this, it can be very frustrating. But that is the 411 on baby reflux. All the things that you'd probably find on the internet, basic things that a doctor would probably have you try. And so if you have a baby that has reflux, let me know below. Let me know your journey, what you've tried, what helped, what didn't help. If you're still in that season, because we're kind of in that season still, but we're coming out of it. So we're entering the giving him solids phase and baby-led weaning and that whole thing. And so it's been interesting, like, what can I eat as a breastfeeding mom, but then what can I feed him as a 6-month-old baby-led, or, you know, yeah, baby-led weaned baby. Is that how you say it? So anyways, I hope this video helped you if your baby has reflux. If you have any questions or you want to just chat, please let me know. And thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time.